Joining me right now, I have Edwin Duarte, who's from Legacy Wealth. We're going to be talking about the 6 things which you should never do with your money. Edwin, welcome to Full Circle.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Edwin, it's Monday. Today morning, I was on the road for like, I think, almost 2 hours. It took me 2 hours to get here. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I was looking all around me, obviously, because there's traffic. Everyone is rushing somewhere.
Yeah.
So everybody's on the hustle, basically. And we are all out here trying to make money. But unfortunately, most of the time, you know, you've had this expression with Kenyans, yani unapata pesa kama imepotea. So, and I'm sure that for some people especially, there must be some very specific reasons why they may seem like they're making at least a good amount of money, but for some reason, hiyo pesa ni kama haikai, inaingia kama imetoka. So maybe let's just get into what are some of those tips that you would give anyone who's trying to have a healthy financial life when it comes to making sure that they're financially healthy and sound?
Well, thank you for having me. The first point I'd say is don't leave too much money in your savings account for too long. And I know it's important to have some money, especially to cater for unforeseen events or some emergencies. But beyond that, don't keep too much money in your savings account for too long. This is why I say that. Inflation is currently at 4 point something to 5%. Okay, your normal savings account is paying you 2%. So ideally, what is happening is you're losing money. Okay, the purchasing power of your money is just decreasing by the day, and that's why you'll find that the 1,000 shillings, the amount of things that you can buy with your 1,000 shillings now is much less than what you would buy with the same 1,000 shillings
5 years ago. Exactly.
Even
a year ago. And most
Yes.
people complain about this. Unaingia kwa supermarket, 1,000 maziwa mkati, bas.
Yeah, price and life continues just to be expensive. So if you don't make good use of it, if you don't invest it wisely, you end up with less money at the end of the day.
But how do you find the balance with that? Because at the same time, we are brought up in a culture that, you know, really pushes you to save, 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 save.
Yeah.
But now you're telling me never save too much. So where is the right balance?
Well, it's not never save too much. Use something else. There are mutual funds, there are money market accounts, there are shares, any other kind of investment that can give you a rate that's going to beat inflation. There are probably mutual funds and money market accounts that give you 9% and above. So that's what you should use. Don't use something that's paying you less than what the inflation is, less than the rate of inflation. That's what I'd say.
And when it comes now to that, our second thing never to do, which is spend before saving. So how does that now relate to number 1, which talks about don't leave your money in a savings account for too long? Because obviously you're saying spend some of that money.
Yeah.
And you've touched on how you can spend the money with your mutual funds and whatnot.
Okay, basically what I tell my clients is pay yourself first. In terms of don't consider spending as paying yourself. By saving, we mean not only just putting some money for your emergencies on a savings account, put it in the mutual funds, those that we are talking about, the money market accounts and all that. Consider that as paying yourself. Invest the money. Let your money work for you. Otherwise, just in your kawaida savings account, the bank accounts, your money is on vacation.
You know, you say 2 things.
Yes.
Pay yourself first
Yes.
and let your money work for you.
Yes.
Maybe let's start with that first one. Pay yourself first. Because there might be a guy or a chick watching this show and they're like, pay myself. You know, I've always wanted to go to Dubai. I've always wanted to buy a new couch. I've always wanted to buy a new car. So is that what pay yourself means?
No, pay yourself first means you save first, spend what is left, right? So always deduct either a percentage, either 10%, 20% of your earnings every month to first go to savings before you can spend on anything else, whether it's a vacation, whether it's actually taking care of those basic needs, but save first. That's the only way you're going to grow wealth over time.
And when you say put all your money in one basket, as the third thing never to do, because we see this very often, and I think we've touched on it a bit with savings,
Yeah.
whereby you'll say somebody's working so hard and really all they have are savings, like all the money they've amassed, it goes into a saving account. So why is that wrong when in the context of putting all your money in one basket?
Well, it's wrong because one, you're not diversifying your risk. Because, and I'll say this in context of, as Kenyans, we have this unhealthy relationship or obsession with land. So you find a lot of people have put a lot of their money in land. And I've seen so many people struggle to dispose of this piece of land when an emergency comes up. So no investment is wrong. Even that savings account in a bank is not wrong. What happens is each and every single investment has a set of needs that it's going to take care of. So the first point that you need to start with is get to understand the needs that you're trying to cover, okay? Once you do that, then you will be able to know what this investment is going to do for you, what that savings account is going to do for you, what that land can be able to do for you, or what that money market account can be able to do for you.
Okay, and the fifth thing, never to do, you say, is to shop emotionally. And I think I speak for most girls when I say, kwanza that time of the month,
Yeah.
you know, you are there, and then you see someone saying 50% off. I recently came across a quote that said, when you see someone telling you something is on sale, you did not save money, yeah? Like really you didn't. If something was going for 4K, now it's going for 3K, don't use that as an emotional impetus to now say, you know, I saved 1,000. In fact, let me get 3, yeah? Because usually they go for 4,000, and women especially do that.
Not only women. I'd tell you for a fact, I'm a spender when I'm happy, okay? And my family and friends will know this. So what normally happens is when something good happens to me or when I'm in a happy mood and I have money, I will spend. However, what that does is it just draws you further away from your goals, okay? So there are few things that I've done to make sure that I don't end up spending money emotionally or just making that impulse purchase. And the same things are what I tell my clients. So I have a 48-hour rule where, okay, I'm happy and I've seen something that I like. I will stay for 2 days. And if after 2 days I'm still willing to spend that kind of money, I'll spend it. The other thing is I will keep away from credit cards. If I must have one, I'll give it to my wife, actually. She's the saver.
She's a bit more sober in your relationship.
She's the saver, okay? And I will stay away from places where I tend to spend a lot of money.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you saying the fifth one is basically saying, talk about wealth versus looking wealthy.
I like an image that is all over the internet or on social media where there's a rapper. I have nothing against rappers, actually. There's a rapper who's showing off their bling, their jewelry and their money versus someone just in a t-shirt and jeans. Okay, the person in a t-shirt and jeans looks very modest or very poor. But in real sense, that person is Mark Zuckerberg. If you compare the two, who really is rich? So the goal is to be rich or to be wealthy, not to look wealthy.
For sure. And remember, we are talking about the 6 things never to do with your money. So as you kick off your week and you're hustling, just to, you know, sometimes it's great to have just a small reminder to understand some of those common mistakes that perhaps you've been making, and hopefully that we're going to help you to get out of them and start making healthy and sound financial decisions. If you have any questions on this topic, our SMS line is on your screen. Please feel free to ask me. And of course, our guest here in studio. But right now, it's time for a very quick break. We'll be right back. Good morning and welcome back to Full Circle. Thank you so much for choosing to tune in this morning. So earlier on, we were talking about the 6 things to never do with your money. We talked about leaving all your money in a savings account for too long. That is a very common mistake that most people make. Spend before saving. This basically means that you actually need to have some very specific financial goals around what it is you want to do with your money. Yani, let your money work for you. We are saying also, do not put all your money in one basket. And I'm sure if you look all around you, unfortunately, there are some statistics that tell you that this can really be a disaster. And we've seen people who unfortunately have lost, you know, the bulk of their savings, if not all of their resources, you know, savings, assets and everything, because they were, for lack of a better word, misinformed enough to actually invest and put all their money in one basket. And then also we are talking about avoid emotional purchases. By the time you want to do something, earlier on you had, you know, sometimes us girls, once you just see that sale, discount, you know, your brain just goes crazy, you go mad. Other people, when they are happy, that's when they are very generous. So the idea here is sometimes pause, take a minute, consult, think it through. or, you know, be one of those people, yani, you'll walk the entire mall before you actually commit to going and buying something, which is one way to actually making sure you're not making an emotional purchase. Then also, earlier on before the break, we were talking about wealth versus looking wealthy. And now over to you, Edwin, because we are living in they like to say, a social media world, and especially with millennials, whereby on Instagram, kila mtu anataka kufront. And now the expression that says, fake it until you make it comes, you know, into play here. Because fake it until you make it, unfortunately, tells you, pose and act wealthy, even though you don't necessarily have the wealth. And what that leaves out is what you were talking about earlier, whereby it's also very important to talk about wealth. You know, how do you arrive at wealth? Well, what are some of those healthy decisions, habits that you have to develop so that by the time you actually say, you know what, I'm wealthy, you don't need to prove it to anyone. And you gave Mark Zuckerberg as an example, because kuna mtu sai, you know, they are so stressed, akona deni pale kwa fundi, ameshonesha suti ya, you know, almost 30,000. Lakini Zuckerberg, this guy is a billionaire. He just wears a black tee, jeans, and some loafers, and he's good to go. Even Steve Jobs had a similar MO as well.
Yeah, so the thing is, majority of the times we spend money on the purchases we make is to keep up with our colleagues, our friends, basically just keep up with the Joneses, or get approval or acceptance into a group of friends. However, what we need to stop doing is spending money on things we don't value or things we don't need, with money we don't have, just to please people we really don't care about. That's ideally what I would tell people.
And this one of pleasing people, because I feel like in the context of now talking about wealth and not necessarily stunting that you're wealthy, what are some of the common mistakes you see that people might make, even the most sober of us, when it comes to pleasing people? And people doesn't necessarily mean external parties. It could even be your own children.
Some of the mistakes people do is just they'll buy things or spend money on things that they don't really value. Okay. One, for example, I used to work in the banking sector, and every year we'd get bonuses and all that. And a month after, the whole parking lot would change. Okay.
When you say the whole parking lot, so it means you're coming to work and literally you don't recognize the cars in the
all
parking
the cars,
lot.
majority of the cars there have been changed.
Yes.
People have new ones. But if you look carefully, this is something someone did not really care about. If you ask them, a vacation would have sorted them out really well, and they would have spent much less than that particular car. But just because colleagues around you are changing vehicles, you also decide, I also need to be on the same level.
Because you need to keep up.
You need to keep up.
Everybody's driving an E-class or an S-class. I can't be here with my kadudu.
Yes. At the end of the day, you end up running someone else's race, and you become very frustrated at all the things you've done, all the efforts that you've put, but you really haven't gotten that joy or value that is fulfilling to you. Yeah.
And so as we wind up here, because obviously, you know, they say money made man go wild. And obviously, as we're talking about six things to never do with your money, we also have to consider that fear is a huge element of financial management. So how would you encourage people just to be bold with investing? Because I see, like, when we come down to all this, especially the creation of wealth, obviously you have a job that gives you some income, but now when it comes to diversification, that's where I feel like probably a lot of us go wrong, and it's from lack of education.
So like I said earlier, it's all about you figuring out why money is important to you, what you want money to do for you. Because once you figure that out, it's going to be very different for you from the next person. Okay. Once you figure out why money is important to you and why you're working so hard to get that money, what you want your money to do for you, then you can unapologetically and ruthlessly decide, this is the path I'm going to take. Okay. These are the things that I'm going to do because these are the things that will give me more fulfillment and more joy, regardless of whatever else everyone else is doing. At the end of the day, your goals, your priorities, your joy and fulfillment is what comes first. So whether someone else decides to invest in crypto or shares, if it doesn't meet your values or your standards, you don't have to.
And what would you advise people when it comes to investment, especially for the creation of wealth?
Yes.
Some of the, maybe low risk, high return areas where they could actually take a shot and put their investment in?
Well, in the financial industry, really, there is nothing like, you rarely find something that's low risk and high return, okay? Generally, it's high risk, high return. But you have first to figure out, like I said, what is important to you, okay? With that, then you'll be able to understand the amount of risk that you can take, okay? The time you have, your goals are going to be very determinant towards what type of investments that you're going to take. No investment really is bad, okay? But if that investment meets your goals, whether it's high risk or low risk, whatever it is, that's the point people need to get to. So you can invest, there are people who've invested in shares, and for them, it's very low risk. Okay, there are people who have invested in land, but at the end of the day, it turns out to be a very high risk investment for them. So figure out your goals first, then the investment will take care of itself.
So I just want to remind you who's watching from home, if you have any questions on this topic, and of course anything else that we discuss on the show for the next couple of hours, get on that SMS line, 111 444 111. Let me know what your questions are. So let me take a quick question here from Anjuru. Anjuru is asking, how do I get the discipline to start saving?
First off is get to understand, like I said, get to understand what you're trying to achieve or what you're trying to get your money to do for you. Then once you do that, make it a point to pay yourself first, to save first before you spend the rest of the money. Then once you do that, then the rest comes easy.
Okay, thank you so much, Edwin. I think wealth of wisdom right there, because ultimately I think there's nothing really better than to know that you can afford your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And there's one of the motivational speakers actually said something. You know, I was in a room at a conference and he asked everybody, he was like, how many people here can afford to take the month off? So, you know, quite a number of hands went up. Then he asked, how many people can afford to take 2 months off? Fewer hands. 3 months off, fewer hands.
Yeah,
and 4 months off, and literally your lifestyle would not be affected. You could go sit on a beach somewhere, you're not working, and you know, you're good. And the reality is that the longer the period was, most people at some point at almost 5 months off, I think there were like 2 or 3 hands up in the room.
Yeah.
And really he was like, that's what you should be working towards. Do not be a slave to money.
Yeah.
Like you said, there needs to be an objective towards, why am I working? And ultimately it's freedom.
Yeah.
You want to be free.
Yeah. Money is just a tool at the end of the day.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Edwin, right now. So I'm going to have a jam playing for you as we prepare for our next segment. We're going to be teaching you the keys to success and, of course, the master strokes that you have to master if you truly want to be a winner.